Hello, hello. So happy to have you back with me yet again. Oh my goodness, it has been quite a week so far. I actually had a really good call come in this morning from a client who I produced a magazine for, and that magazine is being called a movement. You guys, I am so freaking excited. As far as I'm concerned, that's about one of the best compliments I could get. And to say my client is over the moon, well, so yeah, I'm pretty happy today. And as a matter of fact, it was really divine timing in a way because all morning I had been journaling and reflecting on and thinking about resilience and longevity and long life and the long life of business as well. And I wanted to kind of share some of those reflections with you. And then, of course, as always, I brought along a little goodie for you. So drop on down to the description after you hit that subscribe button and the little beautiful bell that will remind you and let you know, hey, Sarah's live and she's got another goodie for you. So make sure you hop on down there and grab that. We're going to be using some really, really cool mindset shifts, I think, today. And I'm going to encourage you, before we really get started, to just, we're here, right? So let's take a breath for a second, in through our nose real quick, and out. That's better. Okay. Hi. Let's talk about resilience. Let's talk about building a brand that will last 50 years, 100 years, 500 years, however long you want it to last. And let's talk about what it means to craft a legacy from not just from what we do, but from what we know. And let's also talk about what we need to do in order to set ourselves up for a business that could last 100 years or more. And why that matters, right? I mean, why does it matter to have a business that lasts forever? Because long after you're dead, right? It's not like you're going to be making that money. But if you're anything like me and my clients and the wildly creative women in my community, this is not all about the money for you. The money matters because you need to have a roof over your head and food in your belly, and you need to be able to, cure that wanderlust craving when it pops up and things like that, for sure. But you're really in this for impact. You're in this for that ooey gooey apple pie feeling that you get on the inside, warming your heart when you've made a difference for one of your clients and you just see the difference that it made for them and their lives, right? That feeling, let's be honest, that's why you do this. You love making a difference, right? And sometimes the hardest part for us is knowing that a lot of the difference or the impact that we're making, we're never going to get to see or experience firsthand. But I don't know about you. For me, just knowing that it's out there, knowing that it's happening is huge. And it absolutely carries me through in those days where that to-do list is a mile long and it all feels urgent and it all feels important. It all feels like it has to get done yesterday. And gee whiz, I am exhausted. Ugh, I don't want to do any of this. Ugh. These affirmations of resilience and reflecting on all of this is what carries me through and gets me back at my desk or back at my journal working or doing whatever it is that I need to do to push through. And in those actions, I prove to myself time and time again how much I am capable of. And I reaffirm my self-worth, my self-love, my self-commitment, and, my commitment to my mission and my vision for this company long term, which is a very long term plan, long term vision. Okay. So, speaking of long-term plans and long-term vision, yesterday the Hubs and I were watching a documentary, like mini series show that just came out on Netflix. Can't think of the exact name of it right now. I'm the worst with names, but it follows essentially the Blue Zone lifestyle and diet. And if you aren't familiar with blue zones, they are these areas globally. There's just a select handful of them where there are a higher concentration and usually high concentration of centenarians or people that have lived to be 100 years or older. And this documentary explores what these people are doing in terms of lifestyle habits in order to cultivate this longevity of life for themselves. And as Dan and I were sitting there watching this and talking about how we were going to adopt this lifestyle, embrace this lifestyle, and integrate it, because we have this little story that we kind of tell ourselves about like the day that we're going to die together when we're like 105 and 108, because I'm older than him. And it sounds morbid, but it's actually really sweet. I'll share it with you some other day. But so we are really focused. We're so in love. It's nauseating. And we want to spend as many years together as we possibly can. And I want to do the same with my business, because I'm building my business in a way where I know that it has just unmatched potential to liberate women at scale, to give them a path to personal freedom, to financial freedom, to emotional freedom, to just everything that they ever thought that they couldn't have. Okay? So I want to keep that going for as long as possible. And it's not about what I can sell or what I can do or what I know, but about building out those ripples and getting them to go wider and longer. And that's what a legacy is all about. It's not about people knowing your name or knowing what you did or you being famous. That's about being a legend. And I wrote an article about that years ago in another magazine. But legacy isn't about being known for what you did. It's more about people carrying out actions or different beliefs or different patterns because of something you did or said without even necessarily knowing why. But because of it, the world becomes a better or maybe worse place. And these are all things that we need to consider as we're building our businesses. So yesterday, as the Hubs and I were watching this documentary, it clicked for me. I had been looking for this fourth pillar of my brand in terms of the values that I wanted to really, really drive home and what I really wanted to offer. I already knew the first three were liberation, leverage, and legacy. But I had been searching for this fourth for a while and nothing clicked. Nothing felt right. I tried to force and try on a few different things like leadership, but it didn't quite land right. It wasn't quite aligned. And when I found longevity yesterday, I knew that's the one, because I've already been a lifelong entrepreneur and I plan to be a lifelong entrepreneur moving forward. And I want to teach you how to cultivate a lifelong entrepreneur lifestyle and mentality that will support your actual physical, mental, emotional, financial vitality. Not just now, not just in 20 years, in 40, 70 years. You know, I want us to be in this for the long haul together. I'm not interested in building some short-term shop and just selling some shit out of it. I want to cultivate long-term, lifelong relationships where we lock arms and we create really incredible, fun, sometimes silly and whimsical, but overall meaningful solutions that people not just want, but actually really need, because there is a very big difference, and one that I learned all too well when I was homeless and living in my car years ago. And so to say I have come a very long way in 10 years is an understatement. But all that is a story for another day. So, um, one story I do want to share with you is the mindset that I had going into my last business, which was not just one of scarcity, but one of like, I was convinced it was going to fail. And I did everything in those first 2 years from this place of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And to be honest, I don't think all of that really fully stopped until probably like year 5 or 6, something like that. When there was like a cushion in the bank and over 100 clients on the Rolodex, so to speak. That's a little 90s shout out for all my geriatric millennials like me. Uh, um, but so like once there was a certain like level of stability, at least, that made me feel comfortable, then, that's when I was finally able to kind of go, maybe this is not a fluke, right? maybe I'm actually good at this business thing, because I had some flops and failures in my 20s. I had tried to start a senior healthcare company that was going to be independent of the insurance and the doctors and all the evils, and it was going to actually help people get placed. But of course, the good old boys didn't like that. And so that didn't make it. Another story for another day. There were lots of them: hospitality businesses, consultants. We could be here for a little bit. I just want you to know that I have not always been successful. My business has not always looked like this. My life has not always looked like this. I never could have imagined that I would own a home like I do now, that I would be married to a man like I am now, or have the perfect little puppy that we have now. But I say all of this not to brag so much as to remind you, hey, it's possible. 10 years ago, I was living in my car, and now I have a 4-bedroom home. And I have that from little more than my writing. And I'm not a college graduate. I have no fancy degree, but I have written college curriculum. So salute me on that one, because somehow I managed to avoid that terrible, terrible trap of college that got so many of my peers. But hopefully I can help. If you are one of them, hopefully I can help liberate you from the soul-crushing debt that our government peddled you. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about building a 100-year-old or older legacy business, because at least for me, at least now, and granted, things are changing all the time, right? Tech has everything changing at a compounding rate. So when I say to you here in a second that I plan so far ahead, it's within reason and with flexibility. So currently, I'm planning about 30 years ahead in my business. I am reverse engineering 30-year goals and living them and executing upon them yearly, monthly, quarterly, weekly, daily. They are my guiding star, these 30-year goals. Okay. And that might sound kind of nuts. I get that. For a lot of people, a 5-year plan sounds like a lot. And to be honest, it wasn't like originally my idea. I'm stealing this from the King Richard movie. I don't know if you saw it about the Williams sisters, or really the whole family, I guess, in a sense. But that their father had written, I want to say like a 76-page, that sticks in my head, business plan from before they were born about how to get the girls to where they are in tennis, and very strictly executed upon that plan. obviously we know where Venus and Serena are today. So um, that was, in a sense, that gave me permission when I saw that mentally to plan that far ahead. So that was really, really cool for me to see. I'm curious to know, let me know in the comments if you saw that and what your reaction was to that long term plan. Really, really curious because there's a lot of different perspectives on this. But for me, I find that setting these huge long term goals and these long term plans, instead of being soul crushing or intimidating, the impact is actually the opposite. I find that I have more patience. I find that I'm far more disciplined. I find that there is so much less pressure on me. I find that I am more balanced, that I have way more capacity overall. And I don't know this for sure, but I'm willing to bet I'm going to have a longer, happier life overall because I am doing all of these things that I just mentioned a second ago. And I haven't always looked forward to a long life either. If you've been following me for some time or you've maybe known me for a while, then you know that I unfortunately lost my big sister to suicide a little more than a decade ago. And the depression that set in for me after that um, was severe. And for a long time, I did not want to be here. And I really was very, very convinced that I would not get to the point where I am now or outlive my sister, which I'm about to do in just a couple of months, which is really crazy to think about. But the last thing that I wanted to do was imagine this huge, long life without her. And now I'm in a completely different place where I'm hoping I live another 75 years. And all of that has nothing to do with business strategy, like so many of us want it to, and has everything to do with that woo frou mindset stuff. Okay. And it took a lot of work to get here. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's not possible that I'll find myself back in that place again. But at least now I have cultivated a toolbox and systems and a support system to be able to do things differently this time around to lift myself out of that place. So if you are struggling in any kind of way, I really hope that you will find this free gift of these resilience affirmations comforting and that you will find that my story is, which is so common, like this isn't even very much hardship for compared to a lot of people. Um, but what I wanted to impart upon you that is that even when it gets really dark in our life and our business and we don't feel like looking ahead, sometimes looking way further ahead is what we need to get that perspective. We need to get through this next little bit that is probably maybe not going to be so great. Okay. So, one of the tools I've been using to keep myself motivated for the long term is actually marathon training. So since I was a little kid, Stephanie, my sister that passed, she always kept me in very active sports like track or field hockey or different things. Even when I was little, she always had me doing stuff like that. So growing up, I had this idea because we lived in upstate New York that I always thought it would be so cool to run the New York Marathon. And this year, after taking years off from running after a car accident that really screwed my back up, I was inspired by a beautiful woman named Emily, who also had severe back pain and issues and who's doing it anyway, despite the fear, despite the pain, despite all of that. And so I said, okay, I'm not letting myself off the hook. This is exactly what I've been looking for. Let's do this, right? So yeah, I've been training for the New York Marathon. I've got a little more than a year and a long way to go, but I'm going to try to qualify. So wish me luck on that because it won't be easy. But it is an incredible practice in personal endurance and commitment. And if you're a business owner or even just a creative and artist that is looking to be able to go to that next level, create that ultimate masterpiece, endurance training, especially cardio, is it's incomparable. Like the value that it gives you in terms of brain function and clarity and just perspective, and it's really, really unmatched. So I can't recommend enough getting at least regular exercise, cardio exercise daily. But if you're willing to step up to the plate and challenge yourself physically, as well as in your business, as well as creatively, as well as in your relationships, right? I highly recommend endurance training like marathon running, because it will teach you so much about yourself and how capable you really are. And hopefully that'll get you thinking a lot further into the future and planning for your business to be around a lot longer, because I believe that you have incredible impact to make. And I don't think that it can be exhausted in 5 or 10 or even 15, 20, or 25 years. I think you've got so much within you to give. And I want to see all of that flow out of you and through the universe so that you can reap the rewards of all of that goodness that you're putting forth and enjoy a beautiful long life. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more specifically about what we can do to build this legacy brand and to have this impact. So if we're going to reverse engineer our big dreams like King Richard did with his business plan, we definitely can't be too proud to have business plans. We can't be too eager to action to not have the business plan. There has to be plans and strategies in place. And then once those are there, we have to commit to them. Okay? Because if you change the business plan every month, it's not really ever a business plan. It's okay to change it once a year. I think that's a great practice. And to quarterly review and analyze how things are going. But the whole point of having a plan is so that you have that guide, right? And so that you don't keep, investing in these shiny things that have you changing your path and changing your course and changing your direction over and over and over again. So you're spinning in weird circles and just taking the longest path possible, ultimately to keep hearing the same things over and over, and realizing, oh man, I have to do those things I don't want to do, like mindset. Right? So let's talk about how the fact that this long-term planning, which gives us the patience, gives us the discipline, decreases our pressure, gives us more balance, and increases our capacity, allows us to have a longer brand. Well, it does that because ultimately, when we have less pressure, there's less pressure to sell too. So there's going to be less pressure put on the customer, which is going to create a whole different kind of environment and community. And because of that lack of pressure and sleaziness, our brand equity is going to get into a surplus real quickly, which is going to help set us up for sustainability long term, because our audience will grow our audience for us from that foundation. Okay. It's also going to help us because this long-term perspective, it gives us a competitive edge, right? Because when we're thinking long-term, we're standing up high over the chessboard and we're really paying attention to the full picture of the landscape, all the moving pieces, rather than the tunnel vision of where we are right now, today, all the time. Okay. And that perspective really helps to set us up to be more strategic, to be able to have more room to make moves when things get a little dicey. And ultimately, all of this really, really, really increases our capacity in ways that you can't imagine. Gives you time back, gives you clarity back, mental fatigue, mental energy, emotional energy, all these things back into your bank, okay? Which allows you to be more flexible, AKA more innovative, right? And that innovation and that ability to be flexible because you're secure, you're sustainable, and you're set for the long term, well, that is what leads to a lasting brand. So drop your questions for me. But before you go, please definitely do not forget to hit that subscribe button and grab your printable affirmations of resilience deck, which you can use to help rework and reframe any limiting beliefs that might have you thinking that your business doesn't have what it takes to go the distance. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll